my queen, my queen. Oh, she, oh, she. Beautiful, wonderfully made. She's heaven's angel, so strong, even in struggle, yeah. When life comes like a storm from every angle, she rises above it all, the backbone of every home. Nothing compares to all she do. The true meaning of every family. She's the glue. Yeah. Where would we be without you? You brought us Martin, Malcolm, and Obama. Yeah, and Jesus too. Oh, she's sophisticated, strong, simply amazing, humble, honest, and helpful, educated, ebony, eccentric, empowering. She's a queen, she's a queen. She better treat her like a queen. Oh, oh, Her strength is amazing. Life inside, 9 months she's carrying back to work, 'cause the family she's carrying. Society don't give her just due, but she prevails and stands tall, a champion, a true woman. But nothing compares to all she do. Yeah, the true meaning of every family. She's the glue. Yeah, oh. Where would we be without you? Yeah, you brought us Martin, Malcolm, and Obama, and Jesus too. Oh, she is sophisticated, strong, yeah, simply amazing, humble, honest, and helpful. Not only that you are educated, yes you are, eccentric, empowering. You're mine, she's a queen. You're mine, you're my. Treat her like a queen. No price could be put on how much she's worth. So valuable, she's the soul of the earth. Yeah. All a part of God's genius plan. Powerful as she can be, the man's H-E-L-P. Yes, sophisticated, strong, simply amazing. She is humble, honest, and helpful. What I like about her is she's educated, she's my ebony, empowering. Yeah. She's my queen. Sophisticated, strong, simply amazing. She's amazing to me. Humble, honest, if you ever had one. She's educated, she's my queen. She builds me up, she keeps me going.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk with Bishop R.C. Blakes. R.C. is an author, empowerment teacher, and the proud pastor of the New Home Ministries of New Orleans, Louisiana and Houston, Texas. His message circles the globe. His conversational and candid approach to challenging content makes him a relevant voice to all generations. Get ready for a life-changing transformational conversation.
Hello, 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 hello. This is RC Blakes, and I'm always excited to be able to share with you. Well, today, doing something a little different. Really not a lesson, but just kind of responding to some questions that, I get quite a lot in my email, and I thought, well, since people are asking these questions, maybe I'll just take some time and just actually present this to everybody at one time. And I guess if you want to package all of this into one question, it would be how a woman may get um, a man to see her. And all of this goes back to people asking me questions about, about Lisa and I, and how is it that we've come to a place where we're, getting ready to celebrate, I think, 27, 28 years. I keep forgetting. We've been together a long time. And not just married, but, actually happily married. So many people brag about their years, but they've been miserable years. Lisa and we've had a wonderful marriage. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you every day we just, lovey-dovey. I mean, it's like anybody, you have your days and your moments, but our marriage has been a happy marriage. There's never been a time that I've been in a posture where I had to second guess my commitment to my wife, and I would hope that the same would apply to her. Um, but knowing my history, and for those of you that don't know my history, I was raised in a misogynistic culture. I think it probably was more misogynistic then than it is now. The difference between then and now is that at least now we're familiar with terms like misogyny. Um, we understand toxic masculinity. We understand the toxic patriarchy. And so now we have a generation of men that are at least conscious. Whereas in my generation, that was just the way it was. Men ruled the day, and men used women for exploitive purposes, and that was acceptable. And so that's what I was raised in. As a young kid, I was sexualized very early by older women, and I mean the culture I was raised in, um, had me to believe that that was, a blessing of some kind. That you're so young and you've had this experience with older women, and you know things about the female body that boys twice your age don't know yet. Well, I was led to believe that I was ahead of the game somehow. And that led me down a path of perversion, sexual perversion, heterosexual, heterosexual perversion, to be clear. Let's be clear about that. Heterosexual perversion. And some say, well, why you have to make that emphasis? It's because I wanted to be clear that I'm a heterosexual, and I'm a proud heterosexual. That's all I'm saying. Leave me alone. Let me do what I'm doing over here. But it led me down that path. And so just created a savage very early in life. I know you all see me now, and I'm viewed as a big brother, a pastor, a spiritual father, a mentor, and all of this to women today. But there was a time that I was as much of a savage as any of these young men you might see today. And so I lived that life. And I thank God that it was early in my life, in my 20s, my latter 20s that the Spirit of God really started dealing with me relative to who I am, who I would be, where I was going. And I realized that I could not continue to live my life in the way I was living it and become the man that God ultimately had for me to be. And so I realized that I needed to clean my life up, especially after I was called to ministry. How can you stand in a pulpit and preach and you know at the same time have all of these different women that you're sleeping with, relationships falling apart and wrecking people's lives and all of that. And if there's anything I've never been a hypocrite. I stand on mine. I've never been a hypocrite, but for a season in my life being a preacher, I never wanted to preach. Let's be clear about that. It was never my desire to preach. Preaching, if there's anybody that's a true testament to the fact that God calls us to this, I'm that guy. I never wanted to preach. I never wanted to be a preacher. But God just it was in me, and I knew it was for me to do. I knew it was my purpose. Don't ask me to explain how. I just knew it. And so there was a point that I realized I had to reconcile the call of God on my life with the way I was actually living my life, because I can't be the guy that goes to the pulpit and has to avoid certain scriptures and text because my life is not aligning in that area. So long story short, God dealt with me and I realized I needed to clean my life up. And Lisa comes into my life. And I realized very early that there was something different. There was something very different about my relationship with Lisa. Now I'm kind of realizing that probably the biggest thing one of the biggest things that was different about my relationship with Lisa is that I was different. I was a young man that finally contacted some sense of purpose and vision for my life. And that's the first thing I'll say, that's the first thing I'll say to women who are asking the question, how can I get the kind of man that I desire to see me? Well, you have to be certain that that guy is a guy that has a sense of purpose and vision. Because if a man does not have a sense of purpose and vision apart from you, what happens is society has trained us to find that sense of purpose and value in our sexual conquest. This is what society says to the young man. Society says, you are important, you have swag, you're a success if you can sleep with all of these women. It's not until a young man wakes up and he realizes that there's more to life than body count. In fact, that's a very poor metric if that's how you're measuring your life and your manhood. If it's by your body count, you are a poor example of a man. It's not until a young man wakes up and knows, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to accomplish in life. It's not until then that that young man comes to a place where his spirit is open to understand that the only way I can be the man that I desire to be is to be certain that I have the kind of woman I need on my arm. It's then that this young man realizes that sleeping with one woman after another is really counterproductive to what he says he wants to accomplish. You can't be a Barack Obama trying to knock every woman down in the hood. You need a Michelle, you see. But if you're dealing with young men that don't have a sense of purpose, don't have a sense of vision, um, it's highly likely that you're putting yourself in a position where your heart will be broken, your value will be squandered. And so it was the fact that I was at a point in my life, because I believe that there were many great women that I dealt with who could have made probably amazing wives, but I was not a husband. I was not in the mind. I was not in the mind frame or the frame of mind or the mindset to actually be a husband. I think, all of the stars aligned when Lisa and I came together, that I was growing into manhood, and I started viewing manhood as something more than sexual conquest. And so I was able to see her because I realized that my future, long story short, my future needed the right woman. And I tell the story all the time how I really was trying to let her go, you know, and because I was not certain that I wanted to be married. I was a teenage father at 15 years old. Child was conceived when I was 14. And we got married, two children from that marriage, and that didn't work out for obvious reasons. We were too young. We were too young. I wasn't a man yet. I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm still out here talking about I'm somebody's husband, but still, sowing my wild oats, and very wild they were. And so, just living my life just frivolously. And so when God finally gets a hold of me, and I come to a point where I've gotten some of that stuff under control, I've gotten control of my sexuality, and I'm living my life intentionally and on purpose, um, I'm feeling myself for a minute, and I'm feeling like, well, I don't need to be married. I'm good. I can just do my ministry, and I'm going to live like the priest. And it was my mama who said, boy, you ain't designed to live like no priest. You need a woman. And more specifically, you need a wife. And she found out that Lisa and I had broken up. My mom says, boy, you had better try to go get that girl. Lisa's your wife. My mom told me this. And I prayed about it. And I realized she was my wife. But let me back up. How does a woman get a man to see her? When I told Lisa that I didn't think I wanted to be married, and I had so much respect for her that I was not going to play with her, was not going to just string her along and play with her. I said to her, I don't think I want to get married. You should move on. I think the single greatest thing that helped me to see her and to recognize her value and her purpose in my life was when Lisa actually left. I was talking with a young man recently that's contemplating joining New Home Church. He has a beautiful family. He and his wife and his kids. And I went and sat down with him, and we had lunch just to, get to know him a little, and for him to get a chance to know me. And I was saying to him, because he comes from a similar background, which is why he's drawn to our church. It's because I tell my testimony quite freely. I'm a man. I'm a man, and I've gone through all of the stuff these dudes go through. And this is where I was, and this is where God has brought me. So guys gravitate to that, and they want to be a part of a church where a pastor can understand them and lead them into the better version of themselves. And I was saying to him, I did not see my wife until she left me. It was when I said to my wife, I don't think I want to be married. I don't think I want to get married. You should move on and move on with your life. And she actually did it from day one. This is why I teach the way I teach. It's because all of these lessons that I teach women have really been developed through my relationship with my wife. My wife has helped me to see the true value of a woman. My wife has helped me to see the conditioning of us as men and how we have been trained to break the woman down. And it was when my wife said, okay, so you don't want to be married, you think I should move on? And she said, okay. And she moved on. And when I said she moved on, I mean, we had spent years together and no phone calls, no popping up by the house, no putting herself in the way. She literally moved on to the point I was actually surprised, because usually when a man tells a woman, I don't think I want it, you should move on, the next step is, if the woman loves the man, the next step is she goes to this thing where she's begging him, she's asking him, why? Give me closure. Please tell me why you can't do this to us. And what that does is that muddies the water. It prevents the man from actually seeing the value of the woman. If a woman wants a man to really see her and understand her value, that woman should make herself no longer accessible, which is what my wife did. And I'm left there to ponder, what's going on? What have I done? And then my mom has this conversation with me. And now I'm really puzzled, because this is the first time I've had a woman to walk away with her dignity intact. No begging, no pleading, none of that. It was later that I learned her heart was broken. I could not tell from her behavior. I could not tell that her heart was broken. And the longer the time went that there was no contact between she and I, the more I realized that I had made a mistake and actually my heart was breaking. A woman does herself a major service when she gives a man space. The more space you give a man, the less he's going to desire space. There are some of you who are queens, you're diamonds, you're tens, however you want to call it. You're cream of the crop. But because you don't know it, you put yourself, or you put yourselves in positions where your value is disguised by your desperation. If you want a man to see you, you have to first, watch this, love yourself more than you love the idea of a relationship. You got to love you more than the idea of us. Because if you don't love you enough that you begin to bargain with your dignity and your honor as a woman, what happens in the mind of a man is your value drops. See, so often we think that a woman's value drops because she had a kid. I mean, I don't personally agree with that. I mean, I guess to each his own, but I don't think a woman's value drops because she has a child. I don't think a woman's value drops, because she gets to a certain age. I think a woman's value drops when she begins to demonstrate desperate tendencies. And a lot of times we teach these other things, like, you get to 30 years old, 35 years old, your value's gone, or you had a child, you have a kid, your value's gonna. I think we teach that. I think a lot of brothers teach that because that's designed to create a sense of desperation in the woman, that she drops her standards and she then accepts certain behavior that she should not accept from men. And the purpose of this is that the woman might be positioned to be used and to be abused because she doesn't really have a firm grip on her own value, because the masculine society around her, the misogynistic society around her says, well, your values drop because you have a kid, because you're this age, and because you're 10 or 15 pounds overweight based on, somebody's scale. When the reality is, a woman's value doesn't drop until, and it really does not drop because your value is innate and intrinsic. You just perceive that your value drops. And a man, you perceive that your value drops when you're a certain age, you have a child, and you're a certain weight. A man perceives you to be of less value when you're so desperate for him that you allow him to tamper with your dignity or your honor. If you want to be viewed as a woman that is wife material, it is imperative that you have the kinds of standards that a man cannot toy with you. So if a man says to you, I don't care who he is, I think I want to move on, your next move can't be, why? If somebody tells you they want you, there's no context where why is appropriate. If you say to me, I don't want you, I don't need to know why. I already have enough information. I have enough information to know that you don't appreciate the value that I am. Therefore, I will remove this value from this context. Whenever you ask somebody, if somebody says to you, I don't want you, I don't want to be married, Lisa never asked me why. She didn't say, well, why? Why don't you want to be married? Why don't you want to move forward? No, she said, okay, I wish you the best. And she moved on with her life. And I mean, not pretend move on. I mean, she literally moved on with her life. If you want a man to see you, sometimes you have to get scarce. If you want a man to see you, sometimes you have to put yourself in a position where you make yourself scarce. Because we as men value what we don't have access to. And when you make it clear that a person can be in and out, committed, not committed, want you today, don't want you tomorrow, and you're still going to be there, what happens is he puts you in the options list or the options pile. He searches for a woman that has standards that won't allow him to play with her, but in the meantime, while he's searching for that woman, he'll keep playing with you because you'll accept anything. If you want a real brother, a real man to see you, sometimes you have to be willing to walk away. And watch this. Sometimes it requires your walking away for that brother not only to see you, but to find himself. Because when my wife walked away from me, now we're grandparents, but we were young kids then in our prime. When she walked away from me, it allowed me to fully come to terms with who I was, what I wanted, and who I needed. Sometimes a man doesn't realize you're what he needs until you take yourself out of the equation. As long as you're constantly around here begging and pleading and doing all of the stuff y'all do, dropping down on one knee, begging dudes to marry you, and they're telling you no in public settings, my God, he'll never see you. It's when you walk away from a man and you have more love for yourself, and your love for you transcends any love or idea of love you might have for him, or for the idea of the two of you becoming a couple, it's then that a brother steps away from that situation and he says, man, I had a great thing. And then watch this. Not only did Lisa move on, but Lisa literally moved on and got another man. She got a boyfriend. I was a little, Black Baptist preacher, young Black Baptist preacher, broke young Black Baptist preacher from the South, overweight. And here I had nerve enough to say to a woman like this. And some of my friends was telling me that, I was in over my head anyway. They felt like I didn't qualify for a woman like that. They just didn't know what kind of swag I was operating with. You know what I'm saying? You dig? They didn't know. They didn't know. God forgive them. But here I am, a young, broke Baptist preacher, telling a woman like this, I don't think I want to do it. She moves on. She gets a big league baseball player. I ain't calling no names. I don't need to call no names. I ain't thinking about the brother. But if I called his name, some of y'all who are baseball fans, you would know who he was. Well, she moved on, a multi-millionaire. Dude with a six-pack, big league baller. But I ain't never had no confidence issues, She moved on. I can't lie to you, though. I didn't like it when I found out that she was with this dude, because something on the inside of me always knew that this woman was my wife. And so finally I came to myself and I said to Lisa, I said, well, I feel like the Lord is saying to me that you're my wife. I know you got this little situation going on with the little baseball boy, but, that needs to come to an end, because I feel like you're my wife. And she agreed. And she said, okay, Now, if you want a man to see you, you have to, watch this. A man has to be able to see that you have a life outside of him. There are so many women who you wrap, all that is you is wrapped up in this world that is run by this particular man. What Lisa showed me was that I have a life outside of you. I can create a life outside of you. I love you, but you're not going to steer my success. You're not going to steer my happiness. And watch this. You're not going to consume my future. You see, if a man can toy with you, and if a man can say to you, well, I don't think I want it, because that's a line. It wasn't a line for me. I was sincere, but that's a line a lot of guys run, because they know that once they say to you, I don't think I want this, they know you're not going to move forward. You're going to be emotionally incarcerated to the idea of us. But the moment a brother sees that you can walk away, make no contact with him, and then literally move forward with your life, if I had not intervened in that situation, who knows? She might have been married to the used to be ball player. Ain't nobody checking for him now. Hey, holla at your boy. You know me. Ain't nobody checking for him now. And I ain't throwing no shade. I ain't salty about nothing. You can read through the lines, right? But she moved on with her life. You see, there's some of you who have situations where you have a man that you think is the one, but you see, that's not. You can't facilitate that on your own. He has to know that you're the one. And if he's not smart enough to come to the conclusion that you are the one, watch this, in a sensible amount of time, it is your responsibility to you to be able to move forward with your life and etch out a life that does not include him. But how many women sit and, he's broken it off and you're sitting there waiting for him to change his mind? That's never a good idea. Brother won't see you. I just, when I realized this woman had moved on, and not only did she move on, but she was creating a whole new life, possibly going in a direction with someone else, it was like, the light bulb went off. And so lo and behold, I called and I said, well, hey, this is what I feel like I'm hearing God saying. She says, well, I agree. We need to talk. You know what I'm saying? And we need to lay down some ground rules about how we're going to move forward, because I'm not going to do this yo-yo thing, this seesaw thing, this back and forth. I'm not going to be going through this, which, I mean, she had already taught me that she wasn't the one to play with. But I saw her. When I say I saw her, I mean I saw beyond, her beauty. I saw beyond her external appeal. I saw beyond all of those things. And I realized that this was a woman that had the kind of character, and this was a woman that had the kind of fortitude and self-love. I didn't have that language for it then. See, every great man, and I'm not I'm not presuming that I'm a great man in your eyes, but any man that would be a great man, let's put it that way, realizes he needs a woman that has great self-love. Now, I heard, this is a powerful statement Louis Farrakhan makes. And of course, I'm Christian, and there's the theological divide between the two of us. But there's a statement that he makes that is most powerful, that I think every man needs to hear. And let me see if I can remember it verbatim. If not, I'll give you the gist of it. He says, no man can be a man without a woman. He says, it takes a woman for a man to know that he is what he thinks he is. And I'll say this, I so agree with that. It takes a strong woman who loves herself properly to teach a man how to love her properly. If you don't have the proper self-love, you will always get a downgraded version of love from the men you encounter. It's when a man runs up on a woman who loves herself enough to say, before I allow you to tamper with my value or play with me, I will release you. It's not until then that you can really see yourself. And so Lisa really became like the what's the word I'm looking for? The finale, the pinnacle of the process of my evolution as a man. When I finally encountered a woman that I knew loved me, I mean, there was no doubt about this woman loving me. But when I go into this mode where I'm uncertain, and see, if there's anything that a woman should not tolerate from a man if she wants to be seen, is a man that's vacillating, because a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. If there's anything a woman should demand of a man is decisiveness. Know what you want, go for what you want. If you don't know what you want, and if you don't go for what you want, I can't trust you to lead. That should be the message a woman gives. And so when I vacillated and I was uncertain, when she walked away from me, what was she saying? I'm not going to tolerate any so-called man that doesn't know what he wants, goes for what he wants. If this is what you want, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. And it took that kind of strong womanhood modeled for me to complete my evolution as a man. And so now here you have it. This is the first woman in my life that I've ever been faithful to. I told you what my background was. I never had a desire to be faithful. Never had a desire to be faithful. I never wanted to be a one woman's man. Never wanted that. I didn't think it was natural. I had no desire for it. I loved having, just an array of women. I love that. And so when I started growing up as a man and that vision came and I saw where God was bringing me and God made it clear that you can't get there, sleeping with every woman up and down the street, then I realized that I needed one woman, and then I realized I needed that woman. And when that woman demonstrated the kind of self-love that she was willing to let me go, even though I knew she loved me, what did that say to me? Well, what that said to me was, see, a man has to feel that there are consequences for bad behavior. And, a woman can't chastise a man. I mean, I guess some of y'all can. You can take your little man and flip him and whoop him and do whatever you want to do. I guess some of y'all can. But in most cases, a woman can't chastise a man. She can't brutalize a man. You know what I mean? But if a man knows that a woman's self-love will not tolerate buffoonery or foolishness, what it does for that man is it establishes certain parameters or relational standards that he will not cross lines. And so though I know my heart, listen to this very carefully, though I know in my heart that God changed me and my desire for a lot of, the foolishness and all of that was kind of like supernaturally washed away, in a natural sense, the thing that has contributed apart from God has been the fact that I've had a strong woman that loves me unconditionally, that submits to me. And I know that's a curse word for a lot of y'all because you don't really understand what it means. She holds me down. At the same time, I know that any moment I dishonor this woman, she has the capacity, she has the kind of self-love to walk away from me. So what does that do? That makes me constantly see her. That empowers me to constantly see my woman. You see, I guess my whole message here is, if you are a woman that does not love yourself and you're embracing the idea of a relationship for some sense of identity or fulfillment or happiness, and you've not found this stuff within you, more than likely the guy you're with does not understand who you really are or what your true value is, because we have to teach people how to treat us. We project our value onto others. My wife knew her value, and she had to teach me how valuable she was. And she taught me how valuable she was by the self-love she demonstrated when I was not loving her properly or honoring her properly. That's a better word, because I always loved her. But you see, you can love a person that you don't honor. And see, if a man loves you, but he doesn't honor you, he's not enough man for you. See, people, you love your car or you love whatever, but you don't honor it. That's why you don't wash it. That's why you let the engine go without oil. And it's not until the car breaks down and the mechanic says to you, well, It ain't worth fixing. Now all of a sudden you're heartbroken because you always loved the car, but you never honored the car. You never took care of the car. Well, there are a lot of men that love you, but a woman that loves herself demands a man that loves her and honors her. And when you have the self-love, what it does is it helps the man to see how you must be honored. So, with all of this desperation stuff, so now Lisa and I got married. Um, and I mean, I could go on and on and on with the whole story, but I'll try to start shutting it down here. But we got married. We've been married now, I think 27 years, going on 28, I think. I'm always wrong with those dates. But we've been married a long time. We've been together even longer. And our relationship has just grown and grown and grown. And we've both changed and we've both evolved. I'm not the same guy that I was when we got married. Clearly, I wouldn't have had all of this white in my beard. I would have had more hair on my head. She's a different woman than she was from that little girl that I married. She's a full-grown woman now. And we've gone through seasons and we've gone through changes. And we've gone through things where life and everything that life throws at us almost felt like it was pulling us apart and we didn't know one another. And we had to reconnect. And the main thing that has kept our marriage healthy and happy is that there has always been the mutual respect. Well, women are kind of engineered, or at least used to be engineered, and conditioned by society to naturally respect a man that they might call husband, especially if he has a certain masculinity about himself. But we as men have not been naturally trained to respect our women. It has been the mutual respect that we've had for one another that has been the glue that has held our relationship together. And all of that goes back to her loving herself enough and being strong enough as a woman, to walk away from a man that she actually loved, because her self-love demanded that she would be honored. If not honored, she wouldn't be at all. And so if you want a man to see you, I think it starts with you really seeing yourself, knowing who you really are, really ascribing value to yourself, and being willing to walk away from anything that dishonors you. I know that last part has messed with a lot of your heads. Being willing to walk away. You don't need to email me and ask me about what you should do. You already know what you should do. Anything that dishonors you, you should put distance between you and it. I recently went to the doctor, and I'm on this quest to really get my health together. I got to get off all the medicine and all of that, all of these complications. I ain't supposed to have none of that. I'm about to get off all of that. Well, a lot of the things that I'm going to have to get rid of are things that I love. I love, but they don't love me back. I love French fries, but they don't love me back. And if you want a man to see you, to truly see you, it's going to be imperative that your self-love overrides this idea of some ideal relationship with somebody who is not giving you the same energy. So, hey, there you have it. That's some insight to how Lisa and I came to be who we actually are today. And the story is still being written, right? Now listen, I want to pray for all of you that may be in a place where Maybe you're struggling with some relational trauma. Maybe you're dealing with something that you're trying to let go. And I know it's not easy. I mean, that would be a question for you all to ask Lisa. How hard was it for her to deal with it? And she's talked about it before. She said it was very hard. But again, her self-respect and her self-love empowered her to push through. But I want to pray for those of you who may be in that place now where you're having to make this decision to love you and to let go of something that is not healthy for you, and to believe God for the best. But watch this, while you're believing God for the best, actually moving on with your life, not sitting around twiddling your thumbs, waiting for somebody to call and change their mind. Actually move forward with your life. Father, I thank you today for the precious Holy Spirit. Thank you for this time that I've had to just kind of speak from my heart. I thank you for the testimony, the life, the story. Thank you for even the marriage that you've given Lisa and I. Now, God, if you did it for us, I know you can do it for them. If you took me straight up out the streets, living like a complete clown, and you raised me up to be a righteous man, and you made me the husband of Lisa Blakes, God, I know that you can raise up men for these women. No desperation, no panic. God, these are your daughters. And God, I thank you now, even for the men whose hearts you're touching. You're raising them up, making them to understand that they are more than societal norms. In Jesus' name, amen, amen, amen. Now listen, I love you all. I truly do. Don't forget that you can go into the description and BetterHelp Counseling. If you engage the link that's there, they'll give you 10% off of the cost of their counseling, and they'll in turn make a deposit into RC Blake's Ministries for our referral. Now, go to rcblakes.com, sign up for my mailing list. Don't forget to check out all of the online programs that are there. And I want to thank all of you that continually sow into our lives and into our ministries and and those of you that have done so today. We love you with all of our hearts. All of my books are on Amazon. You can go there and buy any of them. They'll be a blessing to you. Now listen, until next time, I'm R.C. Blakes. I just wanted to have a candid conversation with you today. I'm R.C. Blakes, and I'm saying to you, you're on top and you're going higher. God has more in store for you. So guess what? We, Lisa and I, will see you at the top. God bless you. Until next time.
We here at RC Blake's Ministries want to thank you for spending this time with us today. RC and Lisa are always honored to have you with us. Don't forget to reach out to us by visiting our website at www.rcblakes.com. While you're there, you may join our mailing list and receive a free download of The Laws of Manifesting Your Vision by RC Blakes. Also look at all of the online programs by RC. You may find all books written by RC and Lisa. Once again, all of us here at RC Blake's Ministries want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And as we always say, see you at the top.